All right, so ready to dive in and get organized.
Always.
Today, we're tackling the 5S concept.
Sounds very structured.
It is. But before you think, oh, that's just for factories, trust me, this system can seriously level up any workspace, even if it's all digital.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how much it can apply to knowledge work, too.
Absolutely. Our guide for this deep dive is a training document from the Management and Strategy Institute, so get ready for some actionable takeaways you can use, like today.
I love how practical 5S is.
Yeah. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty, what's the big picture here?
What's fascinating about 5S is that it goes so much deeper than just tidying up. It's a whole Japanese philosophy. You're creating a workspace that's not just clean, but safe and super efficient.
So imagine a workplace where wasted time is minimized, everything has its place, quality shoots through the roof.
That's the power of 5S.
That's a pretty compelling picture. But okay, I need the breakdown. What exactly are these 5S's?
Think of it as a step-by-step journey, towards continuous improvement. First, you sort. You basically keep what you absolutely need and just toss the rest.
So decluttering is the first step.
Right. Then, you set an order. You arrange everything for a really smooth workflow.
Okay, so no more hunting for that stapler buried under a mountain of paper.
Exactly. Then, shine. And this isn't just wiping surfaces.
Oh. It's got to be more than just cleaning, right?
You're identifying and eliminating those root causes of dirt and grime.
I see. So it's like fixing that leaky faucet that always makes a mess.
Exactly. Prevention is key.
Okay, so far so good. Getting rid of clutter, keeping things clean. What about the last two S's?
All right, so next is standardize. Basically, you create visual guidelines for the first three S's, so that everyone's literally on the same page.
Makes sense. So everyone knows exactly where things go and how to keep things tidy.
Exactly. And finally, sustain. This is the one that makes it all you make 5S a habit. It's not just a one-time thing.
That's where it gets tricky. Okay, so let's unpack this first S, sort. I'll admit, I'm a bit of a pack rat, so this one might be a little tough for me. How do you actually know what to keep and what to toss?
Imagine you're going through your desk drawers, right? And you find that old gadget you haven't used in years, or those papers that are totally obsolete.
Oh yeah, we've all got those drawers.
5S wants you to be ruthless. If it's not essential for your work, it's gotta go.
Easier said than done.
Oh, and the training document even talks about a red tag system. You literally tag items for removal, for repair, or quarantine.
Quarantine for clutter. That's a new one.
It's not just about tossing everything. It's being mindful, about what stays.
I like it. So once you've sorted through all the chaos, then you move on to set an order.
Right. And this is where you get to be super organized. Think labeled shelves, color-coded folders, a designated spot for everything.
It's like creating a flow for your work.
It is. You know what I really liked in the training document? It talked about keeping things close at hand.
That seems obvious, but I bet we all waste a lot of time searching for things.
Absolutely. It's about minimizing wasted movement and mental energy. So when your workspace is organized, your mind can just focus on the work.
No more mental clutter.
And now for what I think is the really fun part, shine.
Okay, now, this is speaking my language. I'm all about keeping things clean. But you said it's more than just surface cleaning, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's about taking real pride in your workspace, not just wiping things down. You're addressing those little annoyances that create the grime in the first place.
So tightening that loose screw before it falls out and gets lost forever?
Or fixing that leaky faucet, preventing the clutter before it even starts.
So you end up with a workspace you actually enjoy being in.
Exactly. One that reflects the quality of your work, too. A clean, organized environment is usually safer, too.
Very true. Okay, next up is standardize. Now, this one sounds a bit more, I don't know, corporate-y. Is it all about rigid rules and procedures?
Not at all. Think of it more like a visual cheat sheet.
Oh, okay, I can dig that.
For how to maintain the order and the cleanliness. You're establishing clear standards for those first three S's. Simple visual guides, so anyone can understand.
So whether you're the CEO or the newest intern, everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. It's about consistency.
And that brings us to the final S, sustain.
This one is make or break for the whole system, for sure.
This is where we turn 5S into a lifestyle, not just a cleaning spree. But how do you actually prevent yourself from slipping back into those, messy ways?
It's like building any other habit. You need to put in consistent effort. Continuously improve and be committed to the system you created. The source material is really big on the training part of it.
So make sure everyone knows how it works.
Exactly. And that leaders role model the behavior too. They even talk about like regular check-ins just to evaluate and refine the process. And they mention, what do they call them? 5S circles.
5S circles. Sounds kind of official.
It's just groups. They meet to brainstorm improvements, keep the momentum going, that sort of thing.
So it becomes part of the culture, not a dreaded chore.
Precisely. What's interesting is that this whole 5S concept, it applies to knowledge work too. Not just like factory floors.
Wait, really? I thought this was all about like tools and equipment, physical stuff. How can you even have waste in an office?
Oh, it's there.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how much waste we see in the digital world. The training document, it lists 8 types of waste, and a bunch of them, they're right in line with knowledge work.
Like what? Give me an example.
Have you ever wasted time searching for like a crucial file? The one buried in like a completely chaotic folder structure? Or have you ever got a report that's full of totally useless information so you can't find what you actually need?
Oh, all the time. Or the opposite, where you're missing a crucial piece of info and you're chasing people down, just wasting time and maybe even making like costly mistakes.
Exactly. And the source material calls that lacking information, which is a real form of waste, in knowledge work.
So basically it's about streamlining, getting rid of unnecessary steps and maximizing efficiency, whether it's physical stuff or digital stuff.
Exactly. It's all about reducing that potential for waste. You're laying the groundwork for continuous improvement.
Okay, we've talked a lot about like getting rid of waste, but what about the benefits of 5S? I mean, there's got to be more to it than just a clean desk.
Oh, absolutely. For starters, there's increased efficiency. When everything's got its own place and the processes are all streamlined, you work faster and with less effort.
And less effort means fewer errors, right?
Exactly. And when you reduce errors, you boost quality. And a good 5S system often builds in quality checks. So you catch issues before they become like huge problems.
So it's like a productivity trifecta. You work faster, make fewer mistakes, and the quality of your work goes up.
And don't forget the morale boost and teamwork. When everyone takes pride in their workspace and contributes to this system of efficiency, it creates good vibe. Plus, when people see how much smoother their work is, they'll embrace it and participate more.
So it's not just about being like individually productive, but creating this whole culture. All right, we're sold. But the big question is, how do you actually implement 5S? Where do you even start?
Don't worry, the source material's got you covered. They outline a 5-phase process for implementing it, and they emphasize that it's, a gradual thing, not a quick fix.
So no flipping our workplace upside down overnight.
Exactly. It's strategic. You take it step by step, and it all starts with planning and getting everyone on board, from the top all the way down to the front lines.
Speaking of planning, the source material has detailed plans, right?
They are incredibly detailed. They actually give different timelines, like compact, gradual, or organic. What's interesting is the level of detail. They actually break it down into specific activities for each area, week by week.
So it's not just saying, all right, everybody, let's get organized.
It's methodical.
Yeah.
But, it's not just about like rigid timelines and checklists. There's a human element. The source acknowledges that change can be tough and that resistance is natural.
People might not love having to change their habits, even if it is for the better.
Yeah. The source actually lists some common objections. We don't have time. It's already clean enough. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
All pretty valid concerns. How do you convince people it's worth it?
You have to communicate clearly, about the benefits. Get everyone involved, and, actions speak louder than words. Once people start seeing the positive results, that resistance will probably melt away.
It's about building momentum, showing people how it really works.
It's a win-win. Everyone benefits from a more efficient work environment, one they can enjoy.
Okay, we've got the phases, we've got the change management piece. Who are the key players in all this?
5S is a team effort. The training lays out several roles, each with their own responsibilities. You have the sponsor, who's usually someone from the top. They're the champion.
Providing the resources and support.
Exactly. And you have, the coordinator. They're the one making sure the implementation actually happens.
So they do the training and make sure everyone's on track.
It's a big job. They need to be a good leader and, be able to communicate well.
And they probably need to be really organized themselves. But they're not doing it all alone, right?
Right. You've also got consultants who can give expert advice, and the managers of each area who need to make it part of how they do things every day.
But what about the staff?
The staff are the most important. They're the ones who actually, experience the changes. So they have to be on board. 5S is something you do with people, not to people.
I like that. When everyone feels like they're a part of it, that's when it works.
Exactly. It creates ownership.
Yeah.
And that sense of ownership is so important for, sustaining it.
Ah, yes. Sustain. The most challenging part, probably. You've got your team, your plan, everyone's on board. But how do you make sure this isn't just a one-time thing?
The source is very clear.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a one-time project. It's a journey.
It's about creating, like, habits.
The training document, it emphasizes the importance of training, especially new people. You can't just assume that they'll get it.
Everyone needs to understand why it matters.
And they need to see it in action. Leaders have to role model the behavior.
Show people how it's done.
Exactly. And remember those 5S circles. They play a big part in keeping that momentum. They're all about evaluating and improving.
And finding solutions, right? Not just complaining.
Right. They're actively making this system better.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot. We've covered the 5S's, this idea of waste in both physical and knowledge work, all the benefits of 5S, how to implement it, who the key players are, and how to make it last. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to mention one more thing from the source. The designs and implementation plans.
The source is so visual. It has all these aids and templates to help with implementation.
They even have a stairway chart. It visually shows the 5S journey.
Each step is a different S. It's great for tracking your progress.
And for all the data people out there, they even have point scales to see how you're doing.
It's all about making it super practical, no matter how you learn best.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so powerful. It can be tailored to anyone, really.
Doesn't matter what your industry is, what size your organization is, or even your personal work style.
That's a great point. Okay, that was a lot to cover. But what's the main message you'd want our listeners to take away from this?
5S is so much more than just a cleaning method. It's like a whole philosophy, a new way of thinking about work. It can transform your space and your mental clarity.
It helps you work better and be more productive. And that's something everyone can benefit from. And you don't have to do it all at once. You can just start with one or two of the S's and see what happens.
Even small actions can have a big impact. They can be the spark for a whole new way of working.
That's a great point. It's about experiencing those benefits firsthand. And before we move on, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
I love a good question to think about.
So for all our listeners who love efficiency, here's the challenge. What's one tiny change you can make today to improve your workspace? It can be physical or digital based on 5S.
It doesn't have to be a huge overhaul. It could be tackling that one junk drawer, organizing your computer desktop, or even just setting up folders for your files.
Those small actions can make a big difference in how you feel and how you work.
So think about it. What one tiny step can you take today to make your workspace better? When we were talking about those small steps, like those little things you can do and how visual 5S is, I was thinking about this story in the training document.
Oh, a story. Do tell.
Well, it talks about this team implementing 5S in their workspace. And one of the big things they did was create these visual boundaries.
Boundaries.
Yeah. They used tape to mark off different zones for specific tasks, so everyone knew right away where things belonged.
So no more tools and supplies all over the place.
Exactly. And the visuals didn't stop there. They labeled everything,
Right.
like the shelves, the bins, the equipment. It was really clear. Even their tool shadow boards were super organized.
Shadow boards. Those are the boards with the outlines of the tools, right?
Yeah. So you can see instantly if something is missing. But it's not just about tidiness. It's about making the order and the efficiency visible. The training doc, it really pushes that visual clarity.
Why is that so important?
Well, first, it's so anyone can understand how it works. Remember those one-page standards we were talking about?
Oh, yeah. With pictures and stuff.
They make it so obvious where things go and how to do stuff.
Yeah.
It's instantly clear.
Like a visual instruction manual.
Right. And that visual clarity, it's also how you spot problems. You walk into a 5S workspace and anything out of place, it just jumps out at you.
So it's like built-in error detection.
Exactly. You can fix problems before they get huge.
Right.
It's like preventative maintenance, but for organization and cleanliness.
I can see how that would save a lot of headaches down the road.
Oh, definitely. And those visuals, they reinforce the standard procedures too. When you can see the right way to do something, it's easier to stick to it.
Right. You're less likely to slip back into those old bad habits.
Exactly. And speaking of sticking to things, remember those 5S circles? They play a part in keeping all of this going, visually speaking.
How so?
Well, they're not just about like keeping things the same.
Hmm?
They're about looking at the system and making it better. Those visual cues, like the labels and the zones, they give the team a framework to discuss things.
So you could notice in a 5S circle that, I don't know, a certain tool is always out of place, even though it has a spot on the shadow board.
Exactly. Then the team can figure out why and like how to fix it. Maybe the spot for that tool isn't convenient or the label isn't clear enough.
It's like using those visuals to like troubleshoot the whole system.
Totally. And I bet those visuals can be motivating too.
Mm.
When you see a clean, organized workspace, it makes you want to keep it that way.
Yeah, it's like you're more invested in the space when it looks good.
Exactly. It's not just about looking nice, though. It's about creating a space that actually works the best it can. Everything has a purpose. It all contributes to the team's efficiency.
It's like the workspace itself becomes part of the team, helping everyone succeed.
I like that way of putting it.
Yeah.
So I know we've talked a lot about how Visual 5S is in like a physical workspace, but what about digital workspaces? I mean, it's not just about physical stuff these days, right?
That's a really good question. How does 5S apply to our digital lives?
It's definitely becoming more and more relevant. But the good news is those 5S principles totally work in the digital world too.
So instead of sorting through piles of papers, we're sorting through emails and digital files.
You got it. And just like with physical clutter, digital clutter can like seriously drain your energy and waste time. Think about how long you spend searching for files or trying to figure out a messy folder structure.
Don't remind me. My computer desktop is a disaster.
We've all been there. So to apply those 5S's digitally, you start with sort. Just like with physical stuff, you get rid of anything you don't need.
Old emails, duplicate files, apps you never use, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Time to hit that delete button. And once you've decluttered, you set an order. This is where you create a really clear, logical structure for your files. Organize your emails and use bookmarks for websites you use all the time.
And just like with physical stuff, the key is to create a system that works for you.
Exactly. No one system is going to work for everyone. The goal is to be able to find what you need instantly.
No more searching for hours. Okay, so how about Shine in a digital workspace? Does that mean like wiping down your monitor?
Well, not exactly,
Mm-hmm.
but it does mean creating a clean and like efficient environment. Tidy up your desktop, organize those browser tabs, do those system scans to keep things running smoothly.
Like a virtual spring cleaning for your computer.
Exactly. And standardized digitally could be, creating templates for documents you use all the time, setting up email filters, or even using a password manager.
It's all about creating those systems and processes that make things easier.
And less stressful. And then, of course, there's sustain. Just like with physical workspaces, you got to make those digital organization habits stick and keep refining your systems.
So it's like a constant cycle of improvement, whether it's physical or digital. So 5S can really help us create a better work environment no matter what kind of work we do.
A less stressful one, too. I know I'm a big 5S fan, but are there like any downsides or challenges that people might run into?
That's a good question. It can't all be sunshine and roses, right?
Well, one common challenge is, that initial time and effort you have to put in. It takes time to sort through everything and get organized, especially if you've got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it can be really overwhelming if you're dealing with like years of clutter. Where do you even begin?
That's why it's so important to start small. One area at a time. Don't try to do it all at once.
Don't burn yourself out before you even get started.
Right. And, another challenge is that people don't always like change. Even if they can see that 5S is good, it can be hard to change those old habits.
We're all creatures of habit. How do you overcome that resistance?
Well, you have to communicate really well about the benefits. You have to get everyone involved.
Yeah.
And honestly, seeing those results really helps.
Yeah, once people see that it actually works, they're more likely to get on board.
And, another pitfall is getting too, rigid with it. You have to be flexible and adapt it to, your own needs.
So don't be afraid to experiment a little. Find what works best for you.
Exactly. And you don't want to make it feel like a punishment.
It should be positive.
Everyone should feel good about contributing.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. It's about celebrating those small wins that add up to big changes over time.
And on that note of continuous improvement, I think it's time to wrap up part 2 of our 5S deep dive.
Wow, time flies when you're getting organized. I'm excited for part 3.
You and me both. But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with another question to think about.
Ooh, a cliffhanger. I love it. What's the question?
All right, so for anyone who's ready to embrace 5S, Think about your workspace, both physical and digital. What's the one area that causes you the most frustration?
The spot where you just feel your energy draining away.
Well, imagine using just one 5S principle in that space. Just one.
How would it change things? How would you feel?
Think about how much better it could be.
It could be amazing.
We'll be back soon to explore even more of the 5S world, but for now, let those possibilities, percolate. All right, welcome back to our 5S journey. Hopefully you've had some time to think about that question, about that one frustrating spot in your workspace. I know I've been thinking about mine. And, well, let's just say my digital life could use a serious dose of 5S.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that. But hey, the good news is you don't need to do a complete overhaul. Even small tweaks can make a big difference.
That's what I love about this whole 5S thing. It's not about being perfect right away. It's about those little improvements, those little steps that get you there over time. Speaking of steps, ready for the final stretch of our deep dive.
Bring it on. I'm ready to see where we end up.
Well, we've covered a lot. The 5S's themselves, what waste actually is, all the benefits, how to make it happen, and even what could go wrong. But before we wrap up, I want to give our listeners something they can actually use, like a spark to get them started.
Yeah, let's get everyone excited to start their own 5S transformations.
Okay, so for everyone who's ready to jump in,
Yeah.
think about that one area in your workspace, the one that just bugs you the most, the one that just drains your energy and stops you from getting things done.
That spot where things just pile up, where you can never find what you need. It's a real productivity killer.
Now, here's the thing. Don't let it win. Pick just one 5S principle. Just one. And this week, make it happen in that space.
It could be sort, like finally getting rid of those old files or those gadgets you never use.
Maybe it's set in order, like organizing your tools or your computer desktop. Or how about shine?
Yeah. Clean everything up. Or, set up a system so stuff doesn't pile up in the first place.
Or maybe you're feeling ambitious and you want to standardize, create guidelines for how things work in that area.
Like a little rule book for that space.
Exactly. Whatever feels right, just pick one principle and make it your mission this week. See what happens. See how it feels.
I bet you'll love the results. Even that tiny change can have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Less stress, more focus, more efficient.
And you might even get inspired to tackle a bigger project later on. Remember, even the longest journey starts with, just one step.
And with 5S, even a small step can make a huge difference in your workspace. And even, how you feel about work.
So that's it for our deep dive into the world of 5S. We've covered a ton. But now it's your turn.
Take what you've learned and put it into practice.
Make 5S your own.
Create a workspace that works for you.
And as always, we'd love to hear about your experiences.
The good, the bad, and the organized.
Share your stories and maybe even inspire someone else to start their own 5S journey. Happy organizing, everyone.